Їх високоповажності Президент України Володимир Зеленський та Президент Європейської комісії Урсула фон дер Ляєн. Слово має Президент України Володимир Зеленський.
Все дуже складно. Too complicated with
Yeah,
these
it is.
technical things. I'm sorry, Ursula. Доброго дня, шановні присутні. Шановна пані президент, шановні присутні. Сьогодні ми зустрічаємо в столиці нашої держави президента Єврокомісії, шановну пані Урсулу фон дер Ляєн. Ви знаєте, я хочу, по-перше, подякувати за її особисту, якщо так можна сказати, присутність.
Personal presence in the life of our country, as well as for her personal support to Ukraine. And it's not only about the very important issue, because there's a lot of aspects that we've settled today together with the leaders of European countries, and I'm grateful for the personal support of Ursula von der Leyen, because thanks to her support we've received a lot of assistance from countries on this path of the fight for our independence. We're talking about this support both on the battlefield as well as the financial support. And of course, this was all made possible due to this positive assistance from Madam President. I'd like to say also that today we had a very fruitful discussions. We've had negotiated on a number of aspects, and Madam President has arrived upon hearing the report on some of the achievements of Ukraine, and in the presence of the First Lady of Ukraine, we've received this support and the positive decision in terms of the renovation and reconstruction of a number of schools. There's a lot of destructions, but step by step we have to return life to Ukraine, and we are returning that thanks to our warriors, thanks to our people, and all of us are very positive, are very motivated about the daily deoccupation of new cities and settlements. It's a big victory for us. We've discussed also today the issue of the energy challenges, and we can see how the Russian enemy is engaging our thermal power plants, and there will be a lot of challenges throughout the winter, so we have to work together because the challenges are very difficult, and the same are for the European countries. We understand that we have to support one another, and Ukraine is grateful to the EU for being able to connect to the European grid lines. This is the support, and we're all interested in that the European countries can receive from Ukraine cheap electricity, and this would help the society of the European countries, while Ukraine in turn would be able to earn some more money for its national budget. That would be very helpful in paying the salaries and pensions. Today we've also discussed how we would be able to enlarge the Ukraine's possibilities in terms of supplying electricity to the EU countries, and I would like to express words of gratitude for taking a decision to proceed with this tranche of €5 billion as assistance to Ukraine. And today we've talked about the possibility of receiving next tranche by the end of this year. This would also be very helpful in paying social benefits and pensions for Ukraine. We've also talked about the preparation of microfinancial assistance from the EU for the next year. We've also discussed some of the priority issues. More specifically, we are interested in joining the EU internal single market, and as of now we are on its way to the fully-fledged membership of the EU. But it's a process, and it's going to be a major victory for Ukraine, but the victory on the battlefield is the most important. So all of that will be there, and we've truly earned this. And while we are on this path to the membership in the European Union, we would like to join the single internal market. This is very important for us. And we've also discussed the further pressure being exerted on the Russian Federation through the 8th package of sanctions, which will come up in future. We've talked on the details of the future package, which aspects are we interested in, and I think we had a very good discussion on that point. I'd like to express words of gratitude to Ursula von der Leyen, because we've gathered on this place, on this alley, not without a reason, because we are marking here on this valley, on this alley, we are expressing words of gratitude to those people who supported Ukraine, who supported our country, our economy, and today I would like to have a new name on this Valley of the Brave People, and of course that would be the name of the President of the European Commission, the Ursula von der Leyen.
Yes, we've got.
Many thanks, Mr. President, dear Volodymyr. Sorry, I took the floor. Is that okay? Yes.
It's okay.
Many thanks for that. Indeed, it is now the third time that I'm here in Kyiv since the beginning of this atrocious war. And I must say it is impressive to see how much has changed to the better here in Kyiv. Life has come back to Kyiv. I saw people in the streets starting their businesses again. You told me how much more the city is lively now and moving forward. I also want to congratulate you to your military success. I know there needs to be consolidation, but still it is spirit, I would say, not only for the Ukrainian people, but for all your friends too. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the order I got today. It humbled me and it honors me, and I want to thank you for that, because I take it in the name of the millions and millions of Europeans that support Ukraine. And I think it is a beautiful symbol of the bond between Ukraine and the European Union. Yesterday, we had the pleasure to host the First Lady in Strasbourg in the European Parliament, and it was touching and heartwarming to see the standing ovation with which she was received, and it was palpable, the warmth and the friendship in the room to honor the First Lady of Ukraine. We have discussed a lot of topics. First of all, I must say the accession process is well on track. It's impressive to see the speed, the determination, the preciseness with which you are progressing. And as you know, we support you wherever we can. I do not have to say to speed up the process, because you are speeding it up. That is very good. In parallel, we have agreed that we need to work as much as possible to make sure that Ukraine has more business, more income, and thus the seamless access to the European single market is possible for Ukraine. We've done a lot already. Indeed, you mentioned the electricity grid. You might recall that at the beginning of this atrocious war, there was still the plan that in 2024, the Ukrainian electricity grid should be connected to the European one. Well, we made it in 2 weeks. This was amazing. And since then, even better, Ukraine is delivering electricity to the European Union. This we want to improve and increase, and thus create steadfast flows of income, for example, for Ukraine. But there are also other topics where we can have this seamless access to the single market. At the moment being, we have 98% of tariffs that are no more on goods. That is good. But there are many non-tariff barriers that we can take away and where our experts will work on. We have discussed that the roaming should be permanent and many different items that we can work on so that we have a deep integration of the Ukrainian economy in the single market. The second big topic, of course, was preparedness for the winter, the short term. And here we have earmarked already 150 million euros to make sure that the internally displaced people here in Ukraine have shelter. And I'm happy to announce that there will be another 100 million to support schools so that the damages done by the war in those schools can be repaired in a short term. I know that 70 schools immediately need the reconstruction, the repairing work to do. It's 70,000 children that can go to school. So this is an enormous motivation for us also to be as fast as possible that we make sure that we are prepared for the winter. It's with the children and their education where the future begins, and therefore it is so important. We have been discussing, of course, the budget support, the so-called macro-financial assistance. I'm very glad that today the European Parliament now has voted positively on the 5 billion loans, and we are working on the rest of the macro-financial assistance. The 5 billion can be dispersed in the first tranche mid-October, so there's a clear path that we have discussed together. The work on sanctions is also well on track. It is always important to exchange with our friends in Ukraine the details, because we have to be very careful that there are no loopholes, there are no circumventions, and therefore there was an intense discussion mainly also by our experts on what we can do together. Finally, a topic that is of utmost importance also is the mid and long-term reconstruction. Here we have discussed how we can progress the structure, the platform for the reconstruction, and we're both looking forward to have on the 25th of October in Berlin a reconstruction congress where experts from all over the world will discuss what the best approach is for the reconstruction in an accountable, effective and speedy manner for Ukraine. All in all, intensive discussions on many, many topics, but what I want to say at the very end, dear Volodymyr, we will never be able to match the sacrifice that the Ukrainians are giving when they lose their homes or they cry for their beloved ones that have gone. We will never be able to compensate what you do with your fight for democracy, for humanity, for the respect of the international rule of law. But what we can tell you that you have your European friends by your side as long as it takes, and that we are friends forever. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you so much.
Шановні колеги, ваші запитання президенту, будь ласка. Європейська правда.
Thank you. I have questions for both presidents, but first of all for President Ursula von der Leyen. We have followed yesterday your speech, your address, State of the Union, and you said there that you are going to provide 100 million euro for schools. That is important to return our children back home. But at the same time, I noticed that you also said that the EU is going to recognize qualification of foreign workers. It means also Ukrainian workers. And I, as a citizen of Ukraine, I am afraid that many Ukrainians would have an incentive to stay in the EU forever. Do you consider that as a kind of threat? Are you going to counter it somehow to help those Ukrainians who are currently in the EU to take a decision to go back home once we win. І те саме, по суті, запитання до президента Зеленського. Можливо, ви вже думали над тим, яким чином повернути з Європи наших людей, які зараз вже обживаються. Діти йдуть в школу, знаходять роботу. Дякую.
Yeah. So first of all, as you know, from the very beginning on, we have agreed in the European Union on the so-called Temporary Protection Directive, which gives all Ukrainian refugees that came to the European Union immediate access to schools, to healthcare, for example, to social security, to the labor market, to the housing market. Because in that horrible situation these people were in, fleeing from home because of Russia's bombs, we wanted to help them as much as possible. More than 8 million Ukrainians since the beginning of the war have come to the European Union, but the good news is on both sides. Many of them have already gone back. So round about 5 million have already gone back to Ukraine. And that shows the most important part. We want, of course, to give our Ukrainian friends, when they need help, as much support as possible, but we also know that they are longing to go home again and build up Ukraine and turn it into a prosperous country. And therefore, the experience of the European Union, where there is free movement for everybody, is that it is a win-win situation for everyone who is in this process. And I think a living proof is the fact that Ukrainians are coming home as soon as possible. You see it here in Kyiv, to build up their country again. And what we do is support business here in Ukraine and business opportunities here in Ukraine as much as possible.
Дякую за запитання. По-перше, дійсно, я тут погоджуюсь з пані президентом. Ми сьогодні обговорювали питання. Мені здається, що шукати внутрішню мотивацію для українців не треба. Вони люблять державу, хочуть приїхати додому. Питання гарантувати їй безпеку людям і можливість надати. Питання складне, ось так за одну хвилину його не вирішити. Ну, я би звернув би
but I will turn your attention to the infrastructure of security in our country. First of all, it is what we can do very fast, the reconstruction of educational infrastructure where our Ukrainians can come back. There are schools, universities, and the also regions where we do not have the reconstructed schools and where it should be the online format of education. And we understand if there is any opportunity of renovation, we have already talked about this, we need money, and I have already asked the Congress of President Biden and to the European Commission the money which we need this year and tranches which we'll need next year. We are very keen on security, the air raid sirens security, and it is today for us not a very fast solved question, but it is a priority. We started these conversations and we have positive results. And with also German partners, we are waiting for some systems and we are getting none of them, but we are waiting for them and we are very thankful for them. And it is partly closing the question of the lack of ammunition and systems. Also, we have conversations with Germany, Italy, and France, and I have not received the positive reaction from Israel. Whatever it may be, the countries which can confirm us the protection of our sky we do not have a lot of them, but there is 5 of them, and we will try to solve the question within them. And it is one of the urgent questions for our states, which will give us the ability to believe for Ukrainians in security, and except from faith, we need to give some confirmations, and we should not risk our people. But we believe in it and we want it.
Наступне запитання, будь ласка, телеканал АРД.
Vasily Golod, ARD German. President von der Leyen, you mentioned the military success of Ukraine. What do you expect from European member states? Because Ukraine asks for more military support. What will you do in your role to support that? And President Zelensky, you mentioned the attacks on critical infrastructure yesterday in your hometown, Kryvyi Rih. You also mentioned, and other Ukrainian politicians mentioned, that Germany is not doing enough. What do you concretely expect from Germany in the military question?
So to all the member states, I recommend, and I don't even have to recommend because we all share the same approach, that it is absolutely vital and necessary to support Ukraine with the military equipment they need to defend themselves. And they have proven that they are able to do that if they are well equipped. So this is the general recommendation to all member states. The European Union, who's itself not possessing any kind of military equipment, is facilitating this process through the funding of the European Peace Facility. But it's first and foremost, of course, the member states' responsibility in a bilateral relationship with Ukraine to go into the details.
Дякую за запитання.
Thank you for your question concerning the bombardments of my district in Kryvyi Rih from the Russian Federation. We understand that there is no military infrastructure, but nevertheless it is not a surprise for us that Russia is hitting the civilian infrastructure. Concerning, I have not understood this with the question how can Germany help us, but whatever, I have just said to you that there is a few countries that can give us the systems, and I am very, very glad and very, very grateful to Germany for their systems. And when we can facilitate this process, we cannot count how it can be, because you can count how many civilian people have died in Ukraine because of Russia, not because of Germany, because Germany helped us, and they probably can give us their systems faster, but they are not hitting us with bombs and rockets. I want for every state who can give us heavy military techniques from Germany, from United States and other European states. They know about this. They open this window and they open us this ability to receive the heavy artillery and heavy systems, and I am once again very grateful to everybody who give it to us. But I would like to emphasize that today what happens in Kharkiv region is a positive action due to our armed forces, and because we have received concrete answers to our questions. And it is very important that every state will continue to support us with what we want, with precise technique. We shall not know how many ships or trains have arrived. We need precise operations which has to be underlined with precise weapons. And about the courage and cleverness of our armed forces, we see the results. So we are waiting for not only Germany, but for every country the concretiveness and precise help. Thank you everybody and journalists. Our meeting is over.